Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here, Ms. Lake. The U.S. Agency for Global Media is tasked with providing unbiased news worldwide to over 427 million listeners, many of whom live in countries without freedom of press or freedom of the speech. And it is your job to promote the American ideals of freedom and democracy. So I wanted to start just by confirming, do you support democracy or authoritarianism?
I think that's pretty obvious. I support freedom and democracy.
Democracy. Great. Would you agree that accepting the results of a fair and free election are critical to a functioning democracy?
Would you agree that standing up and cheering for a cancer survivor would have been the nice thing to do?
Ms. Lake, this is my time.
Okay.
Would you accept that accepting the results of a free and fair election are critical to a functioning democracy? It's a yes or no question. Do you think it's essential for democracy to have a free and fair election?
We need free and fair elections.
Free and fair elections, great. Thank you so much. And yet, you have, to this day, refused to acknowledge that President Trump lost the 2020 election, something that even members of President Trump's own Justice Department have admitted and multiple lawsuits have shown. And we heard my colleague from Arizona talk about what happened in Arizona. So it concerns me that you are now tasked with this responsibility of ensuring democracy around the world when you won't even accept a free and fair election. I'm also concerned by your ability to promote the American ideals of freedom and democracy, given your record defending and praising dictators. Let's look at Hungary. You previously stated that Hungary is, quote, doing it right, and that Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán was, quote, the greatest in America, greatest in caps, and, quote, and equal to President Trump. Do you stand by those statements?
I think that Viktor Orbán has done a very good job at protecting his people and protecting the Hungarian culture.
And so,
I think
Ms. Lake,
if you ask people in Europe, other parts of Europe,
the question here is very simple.
They would be wishing that their leaders stood up for their people.
Is Viktor Orbán the greatest in Europe? Yes or no?
I think he's done the best job in Europe, yes.
Okay, and so even Secretary Rubio acknowledged in a 2019 letter that under Orbán, Hungary took a downward democratic trajectory, and yet you insist that Hungary is doing it right. I want to cover some of the policies that Mr. Orbán is responsible for. Would you consider banning LGBTQ pride parades like Viktor Orbán has done in Hungary as doing it right, recognizing that pride parades are protected under the First Amendment?
What does this have to do with the U.S. Agency for Global Media?
I'm asking you whether you support the policies of dictators and authoritarians or whether you support democracy. You have said that Viktor Orbán is the greatest in Europe. So do you think that Viktor Orbán is doing it right when he bans pride parades?
I think Viktor Orbán has put the people of his country first.
So the answer is yes, you think it's appropriate that he's banning pride parades and using facial recognition technology to actually profile people that go to those parades? How about the fact that Orbán and his party control 80% of Hungary's media market?
Are we here talking about Hungary?
Yes, we are, because guess what? Your agency actually is responsible for other countries
Hungary is an ally. Can I remind you that Hungary is an ally of America?
Oh, and so you think that it's okay that Viktor Orbán, the greatest in Europe, according to you, controls 80% of Hungary's media market? Is that level free and fair reporting?
I don't. You obviously don't like our ally Hungary. I think that
I'm asking you if you think that it's appropriate. Ms. Lake, it is my time. I'm asking you if it is appropriate that a country, Viktor Orbán's government, controls 80% of Hungary's media market. It's just a yes or a no. Do you think that's okay? Think he's the greatest of all time?
I don't have an opinion on what Viktor Orbán is doing in Hungary.
It's not up for debate. It's a fact that has been documented by numerous organizations. Now, not only have you supported, excuse me, Ms. Lake, I'm sorry to remind you, you are not a governor. You're not even a candidate for governor. You're here, and this is my time. Not only have you supported dictators that have supported policies that erode democracy, you also spread claims promoted by Russian state media that the Pentagon was funding bioweapon labs in Ukraine. These claims have been proven resoundingly false, even by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Do you still stand by that prior statement, Ms. Lake?
I know that many members of Congress care more about funding Ukraine.
Do you stand by that statement, which is clearly a lie?
I know that you voted.
You are responsible for an agency that is supposed to promote truth, and yet, over and over again, you are promoting dictators and authoritarians and lies. So I am asking you if you stand by the statement that you made that was promoted by Russian state media that the Pentagon was funding bioweapon labs in Ukraine. Proven false by Marco Rubio. Do you stand by that statement?
I understand you're trying to get a fundraising video here.
Okay, so well, you clearly don't understand that you are actually here before Congress. Mr. Chairman, I just want to say
you had more than enough time. I gave you a few extra seconds, and your time has expired.
Unfortunately,
and I now recognize Representative Davidson.
Ms. Lake is not responding to the questions.
Can I have just 1 second to respond? Because who is going to be speaking next?
Representative Davidson is next.
Oh, may I have just 1 second to respond to that? Obviously, from some of the questions we're hearing from the Democrats, they care more about a lot of other countries than America. And we've seen
what we just witnessed in that exchange between Representative Pramila Jayapal and Kari Lake is far more than a heated back and forth in a congressional hearing. On the surface, it looked like a sharp clash of personalities, Jayapal pressing with precision and Kari Lake pushing back with defiance. But if we slow it down and really look at what's happening, it's a window into something bigger, the tension between America's democratic ideals and the creeping normalization of authoritarian politics. Jayapal started with what should have been the simplest question in the world: do you support democracy or authoritarianism? For most people in public life, that's a softball. But she wasn't just asking to fill time, she was laying the groundwork. Because Kari Lake has built her political brand around questioning elections, around refusing to accept outcomes she didn't like, and around aligning herself with leaders abroad who chip away at freedoms. So Jayapal's question wasn't rhetorical. It was a test of whether Lake could reconcile her record with the responsibilities of representing democracy on the global stage. And that's where Lake stumbled. She gave the surface-level answer, I support democracy, but immediately undermined herself when pressed about the 2020 election. She still refuses to acknowledge the outcome, despite every credible court, investigator, and even Trump's own officials confirming Joe Biden won. Here's the bigger issue. If someone cannot accept the results of a free and fair election at home, how can they possibly defend those principles abroad? This isn't just about politics, it's about credibility. America tells the world that elections matter, but what happens when its own representatives contradict that in practice? Then came the part about Hungary and Viktor Orbán. Now, many Americans might not follow Hungarian politics closely, but this is where Jayapal was incredibly sharp. She highlighted Orbán's record, banning pride parades, suppressing free press, consolidating media power, and systematically eroding democratic checks and balances. And yet Kari Lake called Orbán the greatest in Europe. That praise isn't harmless admiration. It signals a worldview. It shows us that for Lake, strength and control seem to matter more than liberty and openness. That's deeply concerning, because when American leaders normalize authoritarians, they weaken America's own moral voice in the world. And let's not forget the Ukraine piece. Lake repeated false conspiracy theories, claims pushed by Russian state media that the U.S. was funding bioweapon labs in Ukraine. This has been debunked time and again, even by Republicans like Marco Rubio. But instead of retracting, she doubled down. Think about the irony here. She's seeking a role in an agency designed to promote truth abroad, but she's clinging to falsehoods at home. That's not just hypocrisy, it's dangerous. Disinformation is one of the main tools used by authoritarian regimes to destabilize democracies. So when someone in her position spreads it, whether knowingly or not, they're doing the work of those regimes for them. So let's zoom out. This isn't about whether Kari Lake looked flustered or won the moment. This is about what the moment revealed. It showed us how fragile democracy becomes when leaders stop treating it as a principle and start treating it as an inconvenience. It showed us how admiration for strongmen abroad creeps into our politics at home. And it showed us how disinformation can sit side by side with official responsibility in ways that undermine America's credibility on the global stage. The real question for viewers is this: can someone who refuses to honor American elections, who praises authoritarian leaders, and who spreads proven falsehoods really be trusted to champion democracy abroad? Or does that very combination prove that democracy is not just under threat overseas, it's under threat here at home too? Moments like this remind us that defending democracy isn't about slogans. It's about honesty, accountability, and consistency. If America wants to be taken seriously when it challenges dictators, it has to start by ensuring its own representatives stand firmly on democratic ground. And that's why hearings like this matter, not because of the sound bites or the viral clips, but because they give us a clear look at what's at stake. If you care about democracy, if you believe in truth, if you believe America should lead with credibility, then it's on all of us to pay attention and to hold leaders accountable. So the next time you hear someone brush off these moments as just politics, remember, what's on display here is more than politics. It's a test of whether America still has the moral authority to stand for democracy in the world. And if leaders like Kari Lake can't pass that test, then we need to ask ourselves some tough questions about where our democracy is headed. If you found this breakdown helpful and want more deep dives that cut through the noise and explain what's really going on, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Stay informed, stay engaged, and let's keep holding power to account together.